Humanitarian crisis is an understatement for the thousands of Metro Detroiters with close ties to Iraq. We'll talk with leaders of the Chaldean community. And taking Detroit's electronic music to the world until thieves took irreplaceable equipment from him. Filmmaker Christian Hill is here to talk about using the loss to his advantage. Today is Sunday, August 17, 2014, and this is Flashpoint.
Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. You know, if you're lucky, this was just another week of summer in Detroit. But for many, it was anything but. Just maybe you found yourself abandoning your car in the rising floodwaters only to watch it disappear beneath the tides of the highway. Maybe you found yourself in a 6-hour commute as the sudden rains funneled way too many drivers onto the few passable alternate routes that were suddenly thrown into gridlock. Or maybe you've spent the week walking waterlogged furniture and carpeting to the curb with a phone in your hand as you try to make your case to an insurance agent. It was an extraordinary Monday this past week, one that will have many people remembering exactly where they were when the water started to rise. There are so many unique stories about what the flooding cost, and this morning we're going to meet a filmmaker who fell victim to the storm and a crook almost working together. Christian Hill couldn't make it to the airport on Monday, so went to kill a little time near Eastern Market. When he came back, he found a pile of window next to his vehicle. He saw that his equipment had been stolen. That was bad enough, but with it, so many hours of footage for his film on Detroit's impact on the world music scene. We're going to talk to Christian Hill a little later on this morning. But we're going to start with the bloodthirst that is ravaging Iraq. The idea of killing someone who doesn't agree to take up your faith feels several centuries removed, and yet that is what is happening to many unlucky enough to cross paths with ISIS. No surprise the reverberations reach quickly and deeply to Detroit. We'll start there this morning on Flashpoint. Well, it is understandable if ISIS just blends into your broad understanding of the various terrorist groups in the Mideast, but their name alone is an indicator of what they want. ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, aspires to statehood, a state built on radical Islamist ideals with clearly no room for religious freedom, no room for debate. It has been a horrific campaign of purging in northern Iraq, where you find many Iraqi Christians and where you find many ties to Metro Detroit. Let's bring in this morning's guest to talk about what it's been like these past couple of weeks. Bashar Bakoz, whose family back in Iraq has been on the run from ISIS. Bashar, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
On the other side of the table, Matt Carmo is the president of the Chaldean Syriac Assyrian Council of America. Matt, thank you very much for coming. And next to him, Martin Manna, who is with the Chaldean American Chamber of Commerce. And Martin, let me start with you. What has this last couple of weeks been like for you as the connection point for so many who are trying to figure out what's happening to their families?
Well, there's been a lot of sleepless nights. I think since June, we've heard about this terrorist group ISIS. And first, as they rolled into Mosul, it was just a repeat of history for our community. Our folks as Christians had a choice of either to convert, to die, or to flee, and many of them fled Mosul. And as they were fleeing, they took everything, all of their possessions, even their wedding rings, their medications. They had to walk for miles. And so for years now, since 2003, there's been this ongoing genocide against Christians in Iraq. In 2003, there was more than 1.5 million. We have less than a couple 100,000 remaining today. These are the original people of the country. They speak Aramaic, the language of Christ.
Jesus spoke.
Absolutely.
Exactly, yes.
And not only that, this genocide, this ethnic cleansing continues to the point where there is more than 350 churches in Iraq. Fewer than 20 or 30 remain today.
Matt, I think this is an interesting moment because I imagine it still stuns many people to find out that more than half of the Americans who are folks who have come to America from Iraq are Christians.
That's correct.
Do you find that still surprises a lot of people?
Well, for long, not many people knew there's Christian in Iraq. But after the 2003, it became known that there is a large community of Christian and also other minority like Yazidis and Shabak.
The Yazidis, by the way, are this group that we've seen on the mountaintop that have really been struggling for this past couple of weeks. But now, it would seem to you, I'm wondering if you have your doubts now as to whether Christianity is going to be able to survive in Iraq at all, given what's happening at the moment?
I guess at this stage we cannot lose hope. There's a very slim chance. I think if the world community and United Nations with the leadership of the United States step up to the plate and take an action, just like the way they did for the Kurds in 1992 when they declared Parallel 37 as a safe zone for no-fly zone for the Kurds, without putting any boots on the ground. And I think that's what we're asking now, is that we want the United Nations, the United States, to take the same action and declare a safe zone for the minorities in Iraq.
ISIS is a different animal than we've seen and had to deal with before, and I want us to get into that in just a minute. Before I do that, Bashar, your story, I think, has been emblematic of the way that a lot of people have had this horrible sort of worrying, not knowing, not being able to control anything. You begged your parents for a long time to get the heck out of their hometown, and they finally left the day before ISIS overran it. Tell me a little bit about your experience.
Yeah. We are living on north of Iraq. My family living in north of Iraq, the largest city, Christian town, called Baghdad or Karakosh. I was talking after that the first time the ISIS tried to attack our town. I called my family. I told everybody, hey, you have to leave to Kurdistan, because I was feeling something gonna happen soon from the news I was just watching every day.
Do you find that you have an easier time of knowing what's going on from here than they do right there in the middle of it?
Yeah, because over there they don't have, either they don't have enough information in the media, or they lost connection with everybody, and they don't know what's going on. So I called my brother, and because my dad, he went to hospital from that situation, and I told my mom, you have to take everybody to stay in safe area. On August 5th, exactly, when I was feeling something, it's not normal in the area. I was just listening the news about all the area from north, from Sinjar, from other part. So my mom, she listened, and on the last minute, my dad was in the hospital, was in coma the day before. And the doctor either, they told my family, they told my mom, take your husband to Erbil because we're going to leave very soon. We can't stay.
My hunch is you're fairly certain if they had stayed, they would be dead now.
Yeah.
Because that is what happened to those who did stay. Martin, I got to get to a break, but before I do that, it would be a flaw to think that they're simply trying to chase the Christians out. They're also trying to chase those who don't believe in their own brand of Islam out as well. I mean, this is a pretty widespread purge, isn't it?
It is, and it's as they create this state, they're going to use it to launch attacks against many other nations and many other people. I think the U.S. should play a vital role in making sure that they don't expand, because anyone who doesn't share their beliefs is going to be a target. And we think back about Hitler. If we were to sit silent and allow him to do what he did, you know, this is the same type of persecution that's happening today.
Well, I want to get to a quick break, but when we come back, that's a tough issue, because a lot of Americans have fatigue over watching American troops head into Iraq. What do we do from here? We'll continue with Flashpoint on Local 4 right after this. Welcome back to Flashpoint. We're talking about the turmoil in Iraq and the way that it is reaching back here into Metro Detroit. Matt, how do you make your case? And this is part of what your council does. You try to lobby the U.S. government on issues important to you and your constituents. How do you make the case after, as I mentioned, there is so much fatigue, and Americans, by and large, aren't sure that having sent troops for years now over into the Middle East that we have much to show for it? How do you make the case that this is a place where you need more intervention than just dropping supplies from the sky?
Well, I think the latest events speak for itself. I mean, there is a genocide on the ground. People have left their town. They left with nothing. no money, no house, no belonging. They are living on the street, majority of them. As of today, there is no place for them to sleep without the heated weather.
Yeah.
I've got report today. I've talked to the people from Ankawa, where our people have left to. This is today, a second child has died because of the heated weather.
My hunch, though, is that you're going to have to find a way to make this a policy, a political, a national security case rather than a humanitarian one.
Well, I think that's an easy case. As the Middle East becomes void of Christians, it becomes more radicalized. I mean, that's a known fact. ISIS is a threat not only to us, but to all of our allies in the area. And as they gain more ground, as they continue to get more arms, they have already made claims that they will threaten the U.S. and everyone who doesn't have their same beliefs. So the thousands, the 4,000 troops that were killed, the tens of thousands that were wounded. I think Colin Powell said it best. He said, when we invaded Iraq, we also had the responsibility of 25 million people there. So the U.S. has a role here. They have a responsibility. They're hoping that Iraq's democracy would take shape, but that democracy has not taken shape at all.
Matt, do you fear ISIS in a way that you didn't fear Al-Qaeda, the Taliban? I mean, how do they feel different to you, what's happening here, because they want to be a state?
Well, definitely there is, ISIS is not just a matter of, it's an ideology.
Yes.
It's a government with laws, and that laws does not go, they look at anything that does not fit their belief as what they call it, kuffar, or infidels,
right.
in English. And being in that category, then you have no rights in those lands, not whatsoever. I guess what I kind of repeat what Martin is saying, I feel is that United States has a moral obligation to step and take care of what have done to this country on 2003 when they invaded this country. We were not in this situation.
A moral obligation in the sense that we created the circumstance for this to occur.
Exactly.
Bashar, it must feel odd to watch this, and I mean, you must feel like the country that bore you, that you grew up in and felt a part of, is no longer yours.
Yeah. I feel that. I feel that early when I born over there. I finished my college over there, but finally, when I decided to leave the country, be honest with you, I was happy because I was thinking, I'm gonna find different country. They're gonna accept me. They're gonna accept my family, and thanks God when I get like my visa through lottery to this country, I feel I'm happy. I'm lucky because my kids, they gonna go to school in safe area. They are doing great. Either my wife, she complete her college right here. I'm working every day. I'm happy with all my life.
Except for the fact that your family is, yes.
Yeah.
And you've also got, you've got other Americans that you've been trying to work out to get out of there.
Yeah, what happened, this is one of my family's member, and her daughter, she's American citizen, and she born in February in California. And because her husband, he finished his college, and he decided to go to Iraq because was some like contract between Iraqi government and American government. So when he finished, he went to town, and finally I got a call from her mom. She say, either we can take her to get shot for the baby, either it's kind difficult life over there.
I hate to wrap it up because I got to finish the segment, but they're stuck. They can't get out now, and even the American embassy.
Yeah, she
can't
tried
find
to
a way
go to
for them
American
out.
embassy. They told her we don't have any.
Well, you all have got more horrific stories than most people can count now after what your loved ones have been through. I really appreciate you all coming in and sharing it with us as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
When we come back, a fascinating wrinkle to all the flooding problems that we had this past week, one that perhaps you haven't heard, and it's it's had huge implications for a documentary filmmaker. We'll talk with him when Flashpoint continues on Local 4 right after this. All right, welcome back. Among the losses of all of the flooding in Detroit this past week, they were, of course, many and varied. But one of the stories that really caught my eye was the story of filmmaker Christian Hill. The rain kept him in Detroit a day longer than he was supposed to be here. He couldn't get to the airport. He parked for an evening at Eastern Market. When he came out, had lost $8,500 worth of camera and audio equipment, but also, more importantly, the audio files of a documentary that he's been making on Detroit's musical roots. And Christian Hill is with me this morning. Christian, I really appreciate the time. You've had quite a week. But it's also, I expected you to walk in here kind of, you know, really sort of a down on your luck kind of story. That is not how it's been for you this week.
No, I immediately tried to stay positive and get out in the street and be active and try to locate my stuff, but more importantly, just taking this situation and trying to make a positive from it, because I still love the city. I know
you're from here originally.
I'm born and raised here, Mumford High School graduate, and you know, things happen, and yes, I could have been more careful, but I still think that you know, it's just something that happens, and you just have to still remain positive.
I always hate that logic of I could have been more careful, because you should be able to park your car with whatever in it. But the interesting thing here, I mean, yes, all that camera equipment was one thing, but this is not just some little back of a napkin project that you've been working on. Mm-hmm. You already have shown part of this film at the Cannes Film Festival, yes, and you've been all over the world not only showing people what you're doing, but also recording components of, yes, it, because what you're doing is digging into this electronic music footprint that Detroit has all over the world that maybe we least understand sometime right here.
All over the world. Over the last 4 years, my partner and I, Jennifer Washington, we've traveled to Tokyo with Derek May. We've been to London with Juan Atkins. We went to South Africa with a gentleman by the name of Richie Houghton. We've also been to Berlin with Mike Huckabee. So even we've gone as far as Russia, Nizhny Novgorod, where we've seen young people in Russia who have a direct connection to Detroit electronic music, Detroit techno, and we were there to document and see that. So this whole footprint, I'm glad you said it in that way, because I like to look at it as if there's the bomb blast, we couldn't stay at the epicenter. We had to go out and just see how far.
That's a really good way of putting it. At ground zero, you can't see how far it spreads. When movement happens every year, we get an indicator, because we know then that people come from all over the world to be here and be a part of the scene. They feel like they're coming to Bethlehem of the music that they love. But I think the rest of the year, I'm not sure we fully grasp the reach that it is and how big it has become.
Yes, you know, this industry is, just in Detroit, we can just look at the Detroit music industry, and it brings in close to like $130 million if you just look at, you know, all the people that work at restaurants, all your musicians, and just the whole industry. But there could be a bigger footprint. If you look at cities like Nashville, or you look at Minneapolis,
Cleveland,
the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, our musical legacy is, if not bigger or greater than those cities, we're at least on par. And we could be doing some of the things that they're doing in those cities to have an impact here.
Oh, I would argue it's bigger, I think, even than Nashville, because of so much that's happened here that was homegrown. Nashville was this place where everybody came.
Yes.
Detroit created all these people. And I'm wondering if you've come up with any conclusions about what it is about Detroit that has created all of that musical energy.
You know, one word is soul, but it kind of, it's not only, you know, Motown. I mean, of course you have your M5, Iggy Pop. I mean, the jazz scene. You know, there's just so much of a rich musical history here that goes back to the early 20th century that this city could be capitalizing on. And I hope sometime down the line, you know, that happens because it's definitely a state and a local kind of effort that it would take.
Yeah, and if there was a Mount Rushmore for the music that is this biggest music in the world right now, which is dance music, the Mount Rushmore would be these people that you just mentioned to us from Detroit. The Atkins, the Saundersons, the Houghtons.
Yes, you know, Carl Craig is a big ambassador. You also have a gentleman by the name of Mike Huckabee, who's basically turned this into a kind of profession where he's teaching people all over the world how to use machines and things. So this thing has grown to such a degree that you now have young kids, 23, 24 years old, who are now taxpayers because they have their own record label. They're selling records. They're traveling every week. So, I mean, something to look at.
Let's get back then to your current predicament, because it was really interesting. You put the word got out that you had all this, I don't know how many hours of interviews and music taken from you now, but interesting things started to happen when word got around, because you had originally thought, well, I'll file a police report.
It's funny, you know, I filed a police report the night of, and really for a few hours I was just in shock. And immediately I never turned off the filmmaker mode, though. So I was taking pictures. I was telling people, hey, man, this just happened. And a gentleman by the name of Todd Johnson, you know, texted me and was like, man, there's more that you can do than file a police report. Let's get out in the street and let's get active. You know, go to some of the pawn shops, go talk to people. And that's what I've been doing. And I haven't gotten my materials back yet, but in it, I see that I'm gaining such a support from the city and my friends and family. Like, they're picking me up when I should be down, but I feel like that the best way to get through this is to be positive. And as we know in television and stuff, behind the scenes, one of the main mantras is fix it in post.
That's it. And so the film goes on.
The film goes on, and there's no way that them taking this audio, yes, it hampers the production a great deal, but it will not stop it. You know, we're still moving forward, and it's going to be a great treat to finish.
Well, it does. It absolutely stings what happened to you, but it introduced me to the project that you're working on, and a lot of people now are really, I think, anxious to see what comes out of Electric Roots, the Detroit Sound project that you've been working on.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck, Christian. I hope you'll come back when the film's done, and we'll take a look at it together.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for being here as well. Have a great week. Meet the Press is next, and we'll see you next time on Flashpoint.